Former Major League pitcher Tom Walker is our guest. He accomplished an incredible feat in the minor leagues. We'll be back to talk to Tom after these words. Former Major League and minor league pitcher Tom Walker is our guest. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Howard. Thank you. It's good to see you and talk to you and be on board for the 50th anniversary of a special event in my life.
Yes, and that would be on August the 4th, a few days from now. It'll be the 50th anniversary of you throwing a 15-inning no-hitter at the AA level for the Orioles. And the game was in Albuquerque, which is light air and conducive to good hitting.
Yeah, I have to actually pinch myself to think that I actually did it. And then trying to remember many of the facts of an event 50 years ago. That's not always easy to think back to what actually happened, but I've had some help with some of those memories.
Do you remember approximately how many pitches you threw in that game?
I believe it was 193. At least the manager of the team, which was Cal Ripken Sr., the last time I talked to him was in the top of the 15th inning with 2 outs, and he referred to the fact that if I threw any more pitches, he'd probably get fired by the Orioles. They had some money, and not a lot of money invested in me. I was a first-round draft pick in 1968. And the winter draft, as you know, there were 2 drafts at that time. And I was picked up in the winter draft of 1968 in January, actually. So, yeah, good things. It's a game.
How did you feel throughout the game? I mean, you know you've got a no-hitter going. How did you feel in the 10th inning, 11th inning? Were you determined to keep on going?
Yeah, I was. It was I had no thoughts of stopping, none. In fact, I actually thought that I was throwing as well, maybe even better than when I started the game, as far as location. And they didn't track velocity in 1971. There was no screen on the scoreboard saying you just threw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. There was none of that. So, and there was no tracking of how many pitches you had thrown. I just knew I had thrown quite a few. Apparently, our pitching coach and possibly the fellow that was keeping the official score kept track of pitches, but I'm not sure I didn't. But I felt really good, like the 10th inning. You know what came in my mind? I thought of, when you look at a scoreboard, and you'll see it goes up normally up to 10 innings. And then what do you do after 10 innings is start over again. So I remember in the 10th or 11th, 12th, something like that, we were back to 1, 2, or 3 inning. And I thought, that's kind of confusing. I know. So, yeah, it was very interesting. In the top of the 15th, having a little visit by Cal Ripken Sr., telling me that this was the last inning I was going to pitch. And things changed at that moment. The hitter was a guy named Mike Reinbach, and he walked. We've now got 2 outs, a man on first, and then we went to a 3-2 count on the next hitter, which was Enos Cabell. And Enos hit a long, high arcing fly ball to center field. Reinbach's running, hit the wall and ricocheted a little bit. And Reinbach scored easily, no problem, no slide, nothing. He just scored. Now we got to run. Next guy makes it out. So I take the hill, bottom of the 15th, and we got the game in. Last hitter was a guy named Lee Lacy, And we got him out, and I was real happy. The game was over. I was very happy.
What was going through your mind at that time, realizing what you had just accomplished?
Well, my parents were very proud of the fact that I was playing professional baseball. I thought I got to get in touch with them. Well, they both worked early shifts in the morning, like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. So it probably was 11 o'clock Albuquerque time, which would have been 1 o'clock Eastern time in Florida. So I didn't, and there was no cell phones. You got to remember that too. There was none of that type of thing. So you'd have to find a pay phone to call anybody. So I waited. I thought, well, I'd really like to tell them what happened here before they just turned on the TV in the morning and heard about it. But I had no way to do that. So we got back, we took our bus from Albuquerque back to Dallas. At the time we got bunked in, it was really late, and I woke up and called my mother's office in downtown Tampa and spoke to her probably about 11 o'clock in the morning the next day. But that's what I wanted. That's the first thing I thought of. I wanted to tell them what had happened.
You're trying to get to the big leagues. You're at the AA level. And that year, 1971, your parent team, the Orioles, had 4 20-game winners, the first time that had been done in 51 years. And so there was really no place for you to go at that time.
No, there really wasn't. I mean, the whole system was stacked with good players, not only pitchers, but good players up and down. And I know on that AA team I played on, I would think there were at least 7 players that got to the big leagues eventually. For me, I was the only one picked up in the Rule 5 draft, so I went to the big leagues the very next year. But my roommate in Dallas, well, Arlington, we lived in Arlington, was Wayne Garland, and he got picked up. Don't remember the facts around it, but I know he went to the bank with a little money after he got picked up.
Yeah, I remember Cleveland signed him to like a 10-year contract, and his father said, "You're not worth this."
Yeah. Well, he took it anyway, regardless, but he did go to Cleveland. And a lot of those players in the Baltimore system they ended up in different places, took a little longer, but I still occasionally see them. Not very often. I get a phone call here or there from one of the guys, and it's always good to hear from them and talk to them.
That's terrific. Now, you got to the big leagues. You pitched in the major leagues for several years. Tell us a highlight or two that stand out from your major league career.
Well, I think one of them certainly was after I left Montreal. I was there in 72, 3, and 4. I went to Detroit in 75, was traded for Woody Fryman, and went up there. And on a given night, our starter was supposed to just a normal start. And he had a stomach problem that night and felt he would best not take the mound. So Ralph Houck was the skipper of that ball club. He came over and says, "Hey, Walks, you haven't pitched in 2 or 3 days. Can you go 3 innings for me?" I said, "Sure, I can go 3 innings. Not a problem." And I was, you have a mentality of a reliever. You don't really think about innings. At that time I didn't, but I said, "Sure, I can go 3 innings." Well, anyway, I took the ball. We're playing the Chicago White Sox. Jim Cott was pitching for the White Sox that night, and he worked very fast, very fast. And Chuck Tanner was the manager of the White Sox, who I had known from just living around here in Pittsburgh. And it turned out that when the game was over, I had thrown a complete game. and the game was over in 1 hour and 34 minutes. And I think that was a complete game. And in the middle of the summer, it wasn't even dark yet. The lights were on, but it wasn't dark. So that was certainly a highlight in my major league career. Another one was the first time I took the hill in Montreal. We're playing the Cardinals, and wouldn't you know, the first guy I pitched to, and you're going to be a little nervous the first time you take them out as a rookie. And I look up there, and here's Joe Torre standing in the batter's box. Well, he had just won the Triple Crown the year before, I believe 1971. We can check that, but I'm almost positive that's what happened. He did. And Gene Mock was our manager, and he liked the fact that I walked very few guys. Wouldn't you know, I walked the first guy I faced in the major leagues. So you don't forget things like that. But I wish I could have pitched longer in the major leagues. I had some arthritis issues even at a young age in my life, and it definitely hampered my ability to throw the best I could. Let's put it that way.
We'll have more with Tom Walker after these messages. Former major league and minor league pitcher Tom Walker. And Tom, when you were in Montreal, one of your teammates was Chip Lang, and that's how you met your wife, Carolyn.
That is correct. Chip became my brother-in-law eventually. And I take it back to the game we were just talking about, the 15-inning no-hitter. I call it the game that changed my life, not only on the baseball field, but personally off the field. And what I mean by that is I go on and don't get protected by the Orioles, but get picked up by Montreal on a Rule 5 draft, and Chip Lang was already in their system. I think he was drafted in the second round a few years earlier. But I met Chip, and then he informed me that his sister and two more young ladies were coming down from Purdue University, where she graduated from, to visit him in spring training. Well, an introduction in spring to her, Carolyn Walker, and then to her two friends ended up 46 years later, here we are still married. And, we were introduced in March and got married in November of that year. And I give a lot of credit to Chip for letting me even speak to his sister.
Well, that's great. And you have 4 children, all of whom were good athletes.
Yep, they really were. We had 3 boys and a girl, and they all were athletes. They participated in various sports in high school. But the 3 boys went on to go, 2 of them went to college on scholarships. Of those 2, my oldest son, Matt, he signed with Detroit in the 37th round, did not get to the big leagues, made it up to AAA. Sean went to George Mason University, got his degree. Neil Walker just retired from Major League Baseball after 10 years. And Carrie went on to play pro basketball after a career at Wagner College, a small Division I school, but she went on to play pro basketball in Ireland. And we're very proud of them. And between the 4 kids, we've got 11 grandchildren. So the game changed my life. There's no doubt about it.
You and I met when Neil Walker played with the Indianapolis Indians. Now, Neil probably spent more time in the minor leagues than he needed to. However, he did learn how to play the game properly, and he learned the fundamentals, and he made the most of his time in the minor leagues.
Yeah, I think so. We all thought that he probably could have gotten to the major leagues a year, maybe a year and a half earlier. But things back when Neil was playing in Indianapolis were a little different than they are now. They're bringing up guys quickly from the minor leagues to get them in the lineup so that they don't seem to care about the arbitration time clock going off as much as they did back when Neil was playing in the minor leagues.
Now, your wife, Carolyn, is from Pittsburgh, and you've lived there forever. And one of the things that Neil accomplished is he was with the Pirates when they had that great run in 2013, 14, and 15. They had 20 straight losing seasons, and Neil was a big part of their turnaround and their postseason play.
Yeah, those were three fun years here. In building up to those 3 years was very exciting. They had some really nice ball players, Neil and Andrew McCutchen and Pedro Alvarez. One of those years, he led the major leagues in home runs. But they had a lot of good players that, Burnett, A.J. Burnett as a pitcher, Happ was here. They had a lot of guys that loved to play, and they played the game well, and they played the game intently. And their goal, I don't know if their goal when they set out was to win the World Series, but at least their goal was to get back to winning baseball in Pittsburgh. And that's what happened. They did. So hopefully we can get that turned around here pretty soon, and we start winning baseball again in Pittsburgh.
Well, Don Kelly is your son-in-law, and he is now the bench coach with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And he's a guy who played in the big leagues for a number of years, mainly with Detroit. And he's going to do very well because he's a very bright guy. He has good people skills, and he knows the game inside out.
Yeah, he does. He's a very smart baseball man. He's a smart man, period. But he loves the game, and his goal is to manage in the major leagues someday. And I think that will happen. I think he will be a manager somewhere with some team in the major leagues. He's a great young man. I'm very proud to have him as my son-in-law.
He might have gotten the Tigers job this past year had A.J. Hinch gone to Chicago, but with A.J. Hinch available in Detroit, the Tigers jumped at the opportunity to sign him.
Yeah, there was no doubt that was going to happen. They were going to pick up A.J. and let him run the ball club. And otherwise, Donnie could have probably been the manager of the Detroit Tigers this year. But I always think there's a reason for everything, and there's something behind this one it'll prove positive to you and me and other baseball people why Donnie didn't manage in 2021 somewhere in the major leagues, but he will.
Most of Don's playing career was with Detroit under Jim Leyland, most of his big league time. And I feel strongly he was with a great man, and I think Jim Leyland belongs in the Hall of Fame.
I do too. I run into Jim occasionally here in Pittsburgh. We have one charity event that we participate in called Toys for Tots, and they run it through the Marines. And we end up at one of the premier restaurants in the area at Christmas time to generate some funds for children's toys to be given away. But every time I get together with Jim, he always tells me a story I've never heard before about Donnie Kelly. A real quick one was they were getting to the All-Star break one year in Detroit, and Jim asked Donnie if he could ride home with him because Leland lives here in town. And Donnie said, "Yeah, sure, I'll be glad to." And Leland said, "Well, listen, don't forget to pack your bags. You very well might not be coming back to Detroit after the All-Star break." So, he was always busting them up like that, but they're the best of friends. They really are.
Well, that's terrific. Tom, it's great spending time with you. We thank you so much. We congratulate you on not only what you achieved, but what your children achieved athletically and academically too. And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Howard. Good to talk to you. And we're going to have a little get together on the August 4th of this year, celebrating that 50-year anniversary of that no-hitter, because I don't think it's ever going to be duplicated or surpassed, to be honest. It's going to be a long time before that happens.
Oh, you're right about that. That's Tom Walker. We'll have more after these words. Thanks to our guest, Tom Walker. Next week, we'll speak with Gary Varsho, former Major League player, coach, and former Indianapolis Indian. See you next week.